Hi, everyone. This is Robert Rivera with Trend Trading Academy, and this is the weekly recap. I believe this is the 15th or the 16th or something like that of these. And this is where I review the setups from the week and try to see what the market may be doing next week that we can take advantage of. So let's go ahead and start right away. Let's share this screen, and we'll open with the first GN of the week. By the way, oops, that's the results. Let's go ahead and send the, there you go, the setup. We used GN quite a bit, and that's because I've been watching it on the weekly. We've been waiting for the swing to get started. I kind of got started early. I had to close those positions. I did close them for wins, which is good, but I did have to close them because the price action was not continuing. It hit the 20 SMA on the daily and it stopped, and it tried 3 times this week, 3 or 4 times this week. And in fact, one of them actually closed above and then the next one came back in. So I've been watching that relationship of the price action to the 20, and I'm using that as a gauge. So once it closes above and retest, then I'll take a more confident position to the upside. So in the meantime, there were a lot of opportunities during the week to take advantage of smaller moves, and this is one of them. This is GN again. It's been in an uptrend. We have a trap between 2 prices, its own breakout buy, its own breakout sell. And again, for those of you who may not be aware, please go ahead and study the videos in the how to take the setups, what is a proper retest, how to take the retest, because it'll further explain to you how to take advantage of the setup. Okay, just because it says zone break retest buy doesn't mean that you can't take a sell up here, or that you can take a buy down here. In fact, that's exactly what these zones are, right? Zone of resistance, zone of support. So if it touches down here, you can take a buy. If it touches up here, you can take a sell. But to make it easier to understand for the new folk, we just make it real simple. Zone break, retest buy, zone retest, breakout sell. And this is what we ended up with on GN. We ended up, again, a rejection at the top that I was just talking about that you could have taken for a sell. But again, more importantly, we're looking for the break of the bottom, and it did break. It didn't give us a retest. This is the hybrid retest that I often talk about, where it breaks the zone, the zone breakout line, which is this one. If you're a breakout trader, this is your line. If you're a retest trader, then you're waiting for a retest of this zone, of the entire zone, not just the line. And in this case, it broke the line and it gave us a retest on the line, and then it dropped. But again, I prefer new traders to focus on the actual breakout completely, for it to break out completely, because you can tell over here, this one was outside of the zone and then went back up. So we prefer to see a breakout completely out and then a retest. So in other words, this candle after this breakout, this candle after this breakout. But this is what we ended up this time, and we ended up with 59 pips, and obviously I was going to say no zero drawdown, but there's no drawdown here because there was no retest, so we had no retest. 59 pips on the first trade of the week. That same day, I had sent out a gold, which again, I don't know why I keep doing that. Let's do this. I guess because they're not in the order that I wanted them. This is gold. I put 2 trend lines here. I believe this is the hour trend line. This is the 4-hour trend line. And the idea was if it breaks this one, it'll come to this one. And gold, as you know, has been on an upswing for quite a while. I'm going to be discussing it, breaking it down a little further later on. But for this setup, we were taking advantage of the fact that it was trapped between these 2 prices and waiting for a breakout. This is what gold gave us. Gold gave us a slight break to the top after it crossed the trend line. After it broke the trend line, it gave us 55 pips. There was no retest or nothing else to talk about. This action right here on this candle seems to be bullish, but on this specific day, we had already gotten our pips over here. And as I mentioned here, zone breakout appears to be imminent. It appears like it was going to be imminent. And eventually it did break during the week. But this is the only setup on gold that I sent this week. We'll review the gold later on. Okay, so that was gold on the first day of the week, on the 13th. After that, we went with GU, on Monday. We already have it on a downtrend. We have it trapped between the 2 prices. Golden zone is above, so there's a lot of pressure for a sell, right? There's a lot of pressure coming from the top. The 50 is coming down, the 20 is coming down. Price has just rejected the 20 here. So it appears like it could be a sell, but we need to be ready for either way, right? It could go up, it could go down. A significant amount of pips between the zone breakout and the golden zone. So you could have possibly caught a break of the trend line all the way up, but let's see what ended up happening. This is what we ended up with. We actually ended up with both. We ended up with a break of the bottom, broke slightly with a retest. If you didn't like that retest, here's a better one. Okay, so this is a complete break retest, 64 pips with a break and 0 drawdown because it retested at the zone and dropped. And then let's see, this is 30 pips to the top. This is only counting the break here and the retest here, 30 pips. Okay, but if you look at the trend line break, this could have been a better entry down here, and that's a whole lot more pips. I just didn't count them in the results. But as we look at confluence, again, we talk about confluence. If you look at confluence, you have price coming back into the zone, crossing the trend line, crossing the zone, crossing the 50. All of that is indication of a buy. And they gave you a couple opportunities for entry because it retested here a couple times before it actually took off. All right. But I did not count that. All I counted was the break from up here, 30 pips. That would have been a whole lot more pips counted in there. But this is the only setup, I believe, of the week that gave us a win to the bottom and the top. But we do often get those, by the way. So don't give up on a setup just because it already paid to the bottom. It could pay to the top as well, if not give you multiple entries to the bottom. Okay, that was on the 14th. On the 16th, another GN. Again, we've been keeping our eye on GN because, again, we're expecting a long-term position. But in the meantime, taking advantage of the smaller moves, we have price trapped between two prices like we often and always do. And this is the result. Let's see, that was the 16th. This is the result. We actually have a break of the trend line and retest of the trend line, which gave 90 pips. That was a nice one because once it broke and retested, it just kept going. You also have confluence here going over the 50. And if you only took the break of the zone and the retest of the same, that was 64 pips, 64 pips with 0 drawdown. And I did point out here on my analysis how it rejected at the 61.8. This little rejection from here to here was 31 pips. So that would have been another opportunity. I did not count these pips in the results either. All right, I just counted the 64. I didn't even count the 90 and the 60, just the 64. Okay, just trying to keep the numbers honest. But we'll discuss that in just a few minutes. And again, just want to point out, break of the trend line, retest the trend line, kept going. Once it got to the 61.8 on the golden zone, rejection. And once it came back here, retested for a 64 pip win. And the last trade of the week was also on GN. And again, I know there was a lot of discussion previously about how I guess a lot of people didn't like GN. But GN pays very well, by the way. It pays very well like GA and GJ when it moves. Okay, there's a lot of value per pip. All right, someone asked me during the week, you know, wouldn't it be dangerous, too dangerous to put the golden zone right next to the zone breakout? And my reply to them was, market structure is what market structure is, right? I mean, I don't determine what creates the market structure. The market structure is created by the market makers. And we have a golden zone from here, swing low to swing high, all right, with a close below the 23.6. So we have a valid golden zone. And then as far as price is concerned, it's pretty obvious that price came down here and bounced up, came down here, bounced up. So there's the price zone. Also up here, it came up, bounced down, came up, bounced down. So that's the resistance zone. There's no question about that. And then we put a trend line just to make sure if we can catch a break or an early entry for a buy. But so that's the setup. And these are the results. This is the last trade of the week. And in fact, it did break to the bottom. It broke, retested. And I put this on the 4 hour, by the way. I put the results on the 4 hour just because it's a lot easier to see. If you go down to the lower time frames, you'll see the retest, obviously, because they're retested. But if you go here in the high time frame, you can clearly see the break, the retest, and the drop for 51 pips with 0 drawdown. Again, we made a ton of pips this week on GN. The results of the week are basically, let's see, there were 5 setups that I sent. Those 5 setups gave 6 trades. I didn't count a couple of the opportunities in between, just trying to keep it straight. For a total of 323 pips, and that accounts to 54 pips per trade. And either we had no retest or there was 0 drawdown on all the retests, which is a new record for the setups. I've never had a week where we didn't have 0 drawdown on all the setups that had retests. Well, this is that week. And again, on average, the setups are giving, the trade are giving over 54, the setups are giving over 50 pips per setup. I'm sorry, per trade. That should give us confidence that we can hold those positions for a little longer, perhaps. But again, if you're brand new, I encourage you, stick to the 15, 20 pips that we recommend just to create that consistency. Once you have that consistency, then you can start stretching that. And as you become more experienced, you'll be able to gain more and more pips. I'm just point that out just because I know that we have people who prefer the higher time frames and they're looking for a little more pips. So again, on the 30-minute time frame, we're getting an average of in about 50 pips. If you want to extrapolate that to the much higher time frames, you could possibly catch a whole lot more. But with pretty good confidence, you can catch 50 pips. All right, let's stop the sharing so that I can show you then the other screen and get a broader look of the market. Let's start with GU at the very top. Okay, so this is what we have for GU. GU has been on this wedge for quite a while. It tried a couple of times to come back above the trend line, but it hasn't been able to, and this extends all the way back to 2014. So it's been respecting this since 2014. It tested it again in December. It tried again in March, but it has not been able to. And now, by the way, it is trapped in this price zone, which rejected earlier in the week, an area of supply that you might want to keep an eye on for how it reacts to it. It already rejected it once, and the action is still bullish, so it's going to test it again. Just remember that if it breaks that, it's going to run into this, and this is, again, the weekly that has been respected since 2014. So if it takes that break somewhere in here this week, you're looking at a significant amount of pips. That's 300 pips to the upside, but you don't know where that's going to happen. And here, it could be any one of these amounts. Just be aware that that trend line is right there, and it will basically, it'll slap you. Once it gets to it, it's going to slap you down. All right, that's GU. Let's go ahead and let's go to Canada. Canada has been on this wedge for a little while. Again, we've been watching it moving up and down. This is the area of support that it currently has. That area of support has been held for a little while. It's been acting as support or resistance for a while. And again, it came back and touched it, and look how it bounced off of it. That seems to indicate a bullish move, but again, the overall trend is been down and then consolidation, right? So Canada has been in consolidation for quite a while, and but it could break that trend line and the wedge and come all the way up, but not likely based on how price action. Let's say if it continues an upside swing, we'll have to create smaller zones down here so we can take advantage of this. But we're still looking about 100 to 200 pips to the top of the wedge. All right, just giving you a heads up on that one. Let's see, gold. Let's talk about gold. Gold created new highs this week. Since 2012, it hasn't been this high. You can tell this is the chart from 2011 all the way to now. But it just cleared, by the way. It cleared all of these little ones over here. It cleared the high of 2012. So it's giving quite a bullish pressure to the top. Now, this is where price is at now. What you see, This is where price is at now, right there. And that coincides with the close of these candles back in 2011, is it? 2011. That coincides with the closing of these candles up here in 2011. So that's obviously a price that's being watched. It could very easily reject from here. If it breaks this and retests, there is no resistance to the top. There is no resistance to past 1900. Okay, so those are important price points to look at. Where price is right now is 1809. 1809. The break of that line right there is at 1817. What is that? That's 80 pips up. 80 pips up. It still can give you 80 pips up before it rejects. And if it doesn't reject, and in fact it closes above and bounces, you have a free reign all the way to 1900 and 1921. This is the weekly. I want to show you the daily also, because I created that little smaller trend line over here on the daily. It broke it momentarily and went back up. So there's a lot of buying pressure. As you can tell from forever, there's been a lot of buying pressure. If I was creating a zone here for a trade setup, this is what it would look like, guys. All right, that's what you're looking at right there. That's the daily. And if you break that down to the 4 hour and the 1 hour, you may be able to hold that even tighter. But that's the range of the daily for this entire week. And there's money to be made there, okay? I'm just leaving that there. Take those numbers down so you can take advantage of that. All right, and finally, GN, which we traded quite a bit this week. This is a channel that I've been following for quite a while. We were waiting for price to come down to the trend line. It did. It bounced over the trend line, and then as it was going back up, it ran into the 20 moving average on the daily, and that is what has slowed it down. There it is. That's the 20 on the daily. It hasn't been above that since April. So I'm thinking that once it breaks that, now, by the way, now we have also these areas of this resistance here, okay, which goes pretty far back also. If it can break the 20 and climb that zone of resistance, we may have free reign to the 50 moving average, which is from here to there. It's 300 pips. On the weekly is 700 pips, and the top of the channel is like 2,500 pips. All right, so we're trying to catch this baby right here, and there is buying pressure. Even though it rejected, it didn't come all the way down to the lower low. It stayed high, right? So this is the lower low, this is the higher low, higher highs all along the way. Now we're looking for a new higher high above the zone of resistance and the 20 moving average, and I think we should have free reign for obviously at least 300 pips up to that. Let's see, this is the next zone. This is the next zone over here. Let's look at this, hold on. Yeah, that's the next zone. So yeah, 200 pips. 200 pips to the next zone, all right? Once we get a break of that. All right, so that is that for the week. I hope you found value in the discussion. If you would like to see any content in this weekly recap that you think will be valuable, let me know, and I'll try to incorporate it. Again, this is Robert Rivera with Trend Trading Academy. God bless you.